All right, so I watched 38 out of the 44 nominated films that got at least one nomination. I'm not just talking Best Picture, but anything in general. I left a few off the list. I thought it'd be fun to watch all of them, but I just didn't have time. So I didn't watch any of the documentary features. I also didn't watch two of the movies, the two movies that only had a Best Song nomination. I also left off the list. And then there was one documentary short I wasn't able to get to because it's not currently streaming anywhere or available for me to watch without, sailing to high seas. So I figured, well, let's just not watch that. But there are 38 others, so I'm just going to rank them. Kind of an excuse to talk about some of these movies again. So yeah, let's just get into it. First, I'm starting off with the movie that actually got the most nominations. It was the one that worked the least for me. It's the only movie I, on Letterboxd, which, by the way, follow me on Letterboxd if you want. I am at Jackson Kruger. But it's the only movie, Emilia Perez, is that I gave less than a 4 out of 10. I gave it a 3 out of 10. It's just not a movie that worked for me. And again, it's become the thing now where everyone loves to trash it. People that haven't seen the movie love to trash it, and whatever. It is what it is. It's been talked to death, but yeah, it's last on my list. I didn't work for me. Moving on to some shorts, I will mention last thing about Emilia Perez. I do have a full review on this channel if you want to hear more of my thoughts there. A few of these I might just blow by because they're, movies I've talked about before on this channel. But we didn't have some shorts. To be honest, not a great year for shorts, in my opinion. Some that I did like, and there will be some high on this list. But I'm going to bunch some of these together just to make the video flow better. Beautiful Men. I thought it was cute. Like, again, none of these movies I hated. These are all at least like 4 out of 10 or better movies, but wasn't one that did a ton for me. Yuck was kind of the same. Really, both those movies I don't think were poorly made movies. I just wasn't really that into the stories that were happening, so I wasn't crazy about those. Alien, I'm not sure. It's obviously that's obviously the point, is that it could go either way. That's a movie that I think might actually win the Oscar. And to be clear, so it's a very politically charged short, and I have no issues with the politics of the film. It's just more so it kind of felt like that's all it was doing, was just showing a situation like that, and I almost feel like I would have rather seen a documentary about it as opposed to a narrative story about something like that. And in fact, The Last Ranger, I would say similarly, is a beautifully looking movie. I mean, it looks awesome, but it was a narrative feature that was kind of about a narrative short that was kind of about a serious issue, and they even used some real footage at the end, and it got very melodramatic for me personally, and a lot of the characters made decisions that didn't fully make sense, so none of those shorts I was too crazy about. A Complete Unknown, a movie that, we're actually at the point now where all these movies I think are like solid. Like, none of these movies are bad at this point, and even the last 4, there was only one movie I would say wasn't very good, in my opinion. Complete Unknown was very interesting. It just wasn't my thing. Like, I think it was very well made. I do think it was very well directed and well acted, but at the end of the day, I'm not a Bob Dylan guy. I don't hate his music. I've actually listened to some of it since watching the movie, but that's not something that I would go out of my way to watch if it wasn't for the Oscar buzz and the people behind it and everything like that. So, seems like people really like this movie. It makes sense. It's for a specific audience that I'm just not a part of, so that's why it's here. Another few here. So first we had The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. Seems like this is a short that a lot of people really liked. Again, though, for me, I think I just wanted a little bit more. I think I like a short that's going to have maybe a bit more of like a bit more cinematic, I guess I would say, or like having more of like a clear ending. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a really interesting short where it, a lot of times, it takes place with these long takes as it kind of goes through a very unique scenario that I don't know the geopolitics around this scenario and the world history around this scenario, so I can't say for certain, how realistic that stuff is, but a very harrowing situation, and I do think it's interesting who they chose to put them, put in the focus of the film. I think it's a cool concept and one that I would say worked for me, but like, I just wasn't crazy about at the end of the day. I thought it was another well-made film that maybe didn't do a ton for me. Next is Maria, which is a movie that I think I don't think it's a movie that fully works. I think Angelina Jolie's character definitely, or her performance feels like she's performing. It feels like she's playing to the back row of the crowd, and I do feel like, okay, I can tell that you're trying to do this sort of biopic-y thing. It feels very like Oscar-y to me, and I think it made it really hard to actually feel for her in specific scenes where I was supposed to feel for her. I will say, so what Maria got was a cinematography nomination, and much deserved. It looks fantastic, but this is a feature-length movie. I feel like I should be explaining that, but feature-length film that definitely deserved a cinematography nomination, and I'm actually glad it got it because it does look awesome, but it really isn't. It's the kind of movie you could listen to a podcast while watching, perhaps, because the best part about it certainly is the look of it. Then at 30, The Only Girl in the Orchestra, a documentary short, which was a cool idea and followed a really interesting and likable person who I was interested to see what they were doing, but ultimately it's a 35-minute short, and it just felt like it didn't have that much there, in my opinion. Like, it didn't. There was some interesting stuff, but it I don't know. It wasn't a story really. It was just kind of events unfolding, and almost felt a little bit YouTube video like. So the production was good, but just in terms of the telling me just things about her essentially. So yeah, not all films that I think have their strengths, but weren't really ones that worked for me too much. A couple more. These are narrative films. Inside Out 2 got nominated for Best Animated Feature. Wicked got nominated for a bunch of stuff. Inside Out 2 was a movie that I think had some interesting parts to it, but was not a movie that fully worked for me. I felt like honestly, both these movies, I would say, felt like they were too long at parts, but also had sequences in them that I really enjoyed. So I can't put them too high on the list because I wasn't, thrilled throughout, but there were some interesting parts throughout that I enjoyed. At 27, this is Anjua. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. I probably am. This was a fun, cute short film that probably would have been higher on the list, except it kind of ends in a cliffhanger, and I would have liked to see some resolution there, so I, kind of bumped it for that. But this is definitely one where I'm like, that's a fun, short narrative film. I believe it's on Netflix, so yeah, you can check that out if it seems like your kind of thing. It was fun. It's a story where it's two Indian girls who are in poverty and working at trying to get out of that, and it's told in a very, very fun way. So yeah, I would say I would recommend it even if I didn't love the ending. Also, I just realized I made a mistake. I forgot to put the movie Better Man on here, so I'll just talk about it here. But it's a movie that didn't fully work for me the way it seemingly worked for others. To be honest, I didn't love the monkey gimmick. I think it was a mistake, or I don't know. It worked in terms of the kind of like when you would go see a shot in the crowd and there's a different monkey, or the monkey fight sequence towards the end. I think that stuff was cool, but as a whole, I think my biggest critique with it was there's so much emotional moments throughout this movie, and I just couldn't take them as seriously because I'm looking at a monkey. I think that's part of why. Also, I just think there was a lot of voiceover narration kind of telling me what's happening, and I think I would have liked to maybe sit a little bit more. Again, that's the point of the movie, but it did feel a bit biopic-y to some degree as well, even though it has a lot of stuff that most biopics don't, like, for example, a monkey, but also just like some really interesting I think humanistic aspects of Robbie Williams that most biopics don't give you, and instead act like their protagonist is this unrelenting hero. So it was a fine movie. It'd probably be around kind of where I'm at the list now if I put it on the list, but wasn't one that I was like blown away by the way other people seem to be. I think I'm lower on it than most. So I was trying to figure out, how did I miss that Better Man one, and I realized, I missed the visual effects category when I was compiling the list. Therefore, there were actually 3 movies that only got visual effects nominations that I forgot to include, so I'll talk about them now. I did go back and add them into my list on Letterboxd if you want to check out the full list again. But I gave Better Man, it's now out of 41 spots. I gave Better Man my 35th spot. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is at 28, and An Alien Romulus is at 26. I'll talk about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes next, I suppose. A movie that I think works as a whole. My biggest critique is it really did feel like this is almost like a pilot of a TV show. It felt like a part 1. I feel like I got a story out of it, don't get me wrong. That's why I make the pilot of a TV show comparison, because I don't inherently think that it wasn't a complete story, but it feels like there's more there. It feels like it's setting up a sequel, and I'm not always crazy about that. But it was still, these are the franchise movies I feel like kind of get it right, so to speak. Alien Romulus is another one that was very controversial. I finally checked it out, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was, a fun, contained story. I do understand. I agree with the criticism that the fan service stuff was too much. Do I think it could have done more with the plot and more, take more risk? I suppose. Yeah, I suppose it could, but like it was still an effective movie for what it was. I thought so. I thought it was all right. Next up, I have Gladiator 2 this high, which got nominated for, I forget what category now, but it got a tech nomination. But I think I did not mind my time watching Gladiator 2. I thought there was some fun stuff. I thought Denzel Washington was fantastic in this role. I know it didn't work for everyone. He worked for me. I liked I liked all the fight sequences, as silly as some of them were. I'm not saying this was high art or anything close to the first one, but I don't know. It's a movie that I would say, like, does it work? Not in what it's trying to be, but I still think I had fun watching it, so I'm willing to put it somewhat high on the list. Yeah, I think parts of this absolutely worked. It's another movie that is getting criticism from people who did not watch the movie, although it's also getting criticism from people who did watch the movie, so, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm higher on Gladiator 2 than most, it seems. I'll put 5 on the screen now, as these ones I have some to talk about. So first, a animated short film, Wander to Wonder, which was, if you've ever seen Joel Haver's My Beautiful Creatures, it's on YouTube, which is kind of a fun movie in itself. It reminded me of that a bit, where it's sort of like there's these, these, I don't know exactly what you would call them, but like the toy type creatures who, after their creator dies, they're essentially in this post-apocalyptic nightmare that is just sitting in a house without your god, essentially. Very interesting thing. They're kind of a cool atmosphere. Didn't do a ton else, but was fun. I'm Still Here is a movie that's definitely been a darling for some people. It's a really important story to tell. It did move a little bit slow for me personally, and I think that's kind of where. And also another movie that really relies on its emotional beats, and those did some for me, but they didn't do as much as I think the movie wanted to do for me. But still a good movie. I'd put it at 24. Magic Candies was a fun little story of, it's an animated short where there's a kid who gets these candies, and the candies allow him to talk to different things. Like the first one is he can talk to his couch, and again, a cute, fun little story there. I'm Not a Robot was almost like a Black Mirror type episode, where you have a woman, it's a narrative short, live action short, where you have a woman who is doing one of those CAPTCHA things where it says, "Are you a robot?" And when it gets declined, it turns out she actually is a robot, and then it goes in an interesting place there. So that was fun, especially when you watch these, you go to watch all the short films, and a lot of them are really heavy. It's kind of always nice to have one that's just a kind of fun, silly story. So yeah, I like that one. And it did seem like it had some deeper messages as well you could read into, but was ultimately just a narrative story. Conclave is next on the list, which again, Conclave, very effective movie. Seems like it could actually win Best Picture, would be kind of crazy to me, but it was, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the ride throughout. Again, seems like it works for some people more than me, but I still enjoyed it. At 20, I have The Apprentice, which got a couple of acting nominations, and listen, obviously the politics is going to turn some people off. I thought it was a very well-made movie. I enjoyed my time watching it. I don't think I told this story, but there was an older woman who was in my theater who didn't fully, I don't think fully understood what she was doing walking into the theater, and so she had two little American flags, and she was waving them in the front row every time Trump came on screen, expecting this to be like a very pro-Trump movie, and at no point did she seemingly get the hint that it is not a pro-Trump movie, so I don't know, but she seemed to enjoy it. I also enjoyed the movie, I think for different reasons, but yeah, I thought it was well done. A few more here on the list, so a couple more shorts, also Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Modes Foul. First, In the Shadow of the Cypress, which is sort of about grief and about mourning, but also is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's For whatever reason, I'm blanking on the correct word, but it's like Lynchian of like it's not telling it's telling you things that mean something, but it's not just showing it to you, and it's showing it to you in a unique way. I'm explaining this horribly. I apologize, but it's an interesting short film. I thought it was very very fascinating, and I definitely enjoyed my time watching that one. Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. I mean, come on, it's Wallace and Gromit. It's fun. How can you not like Wallace and Gromit? Another very entertaining Wallace and Gromit feature film that was nominated for animated feature film. Then Instruments of a Beating Heart, which was nominated for Best Documentary Short, which was again I think documentaries actually did pretty well this year. Out of the 4 that I watched, 1 I think was okay, and 3 I really liked. This one I really enjoyed. It, a lot of people I saw on Letterboxd had already made this conclusion, but it's definitely something I thought of, where it has almost a Whiplash type feel to it. It follows a young girl as she's trying to get accepted to be a drummer in her classroom for like this thing that they do. She gets accepted, and then she starts to struggle, and the instructor is tough on her, but then ultimately you see how it causes her to practice and get better. And I think it's in some ways is asking the question of, is that good? And it also is showing what you can do to improve yourself. I don't know. Interesting little short there. So I enjoyed that one. That one's free on YouTube if you're. Then some more big narrative movies that I'm sure we've all remember talking about. Dune Part 2 I thought was I still really enjoyed Dune Part 2. I feel like I had a lot of fun with it. I think there are some people who enjoyed it more, which I understand. I kind of want to watch it again at home, actually. Maybe with the subtitles on, be able to catch more things and stuff like that. That could be fun. But I definitely enjoyed my time watching. I mean, it's Dune Part 2. Come on. Who didn't enjoy their time watching it? Even if I did think that some parts drug as well. The Substance was... I still have the issue of, like... I still just don't fully understand why Demi Moore's character wanted to take the substance if, again, the way it was presented was that she didn't live in Margaret Qualley's body. They were two different beings, essentially. Didn't fully understand that part, and because of that, I think it really hurt my enjoyment of the movie, because the whole time I'm like, why don't you just stop? What's going on here? So, because that's the question to ask throughout the movie. Really well made, though, and I loved all the sequences throughout, so that's just kind of my thoughts on that one. Definitely one that has, I think, aged well. I think the more I think about a substance, the more I like it. The Wild Robot is one that, again, I think the knock on The Wild Robot would be there are some moments where it really takes its time to let the emotional beats hang, and I think if those moments didn't work for me, I would have probably hated this movie, but they worked for me, so I like the movie. Number 13 now, I have Incident, which is a documentary short that is comprised entirely of either street view footage or of police camera footage. There is no other aspect to it. So for a documentary, that might seem a little bit interesting. And I guess you could argue, well, is this even like documentary filmmaking, or is this just simply editing? Well, I don't know. I mean, they got the footage to edit it together. That's kind of what making a documentary is. And what it really did in an interesting way was it tells the story of a man who was shot and killed by the police in a way that seems, to me at least, and to most people, unjust. I mean, it was unjust. I don't know why I'm saying it that way. It was an unjust killing of a man by the police, and telling it this way essentially almost just puts you right there in the crime scene. You feel like you are a part of it. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, picking an interesting subject and telling it in an interesting way is what filmmaking is all about, and this movie did a great job at doing that. Sing Sing was another really cool one, which unfortunately a lot of people have pointed to A24, maybe not doing a great job at campaigning for it. Whatever it ends up being, ultimately Sing Sing, what we thought might have been having a chance to win Best Picture, doesn't even get nominated, which is a bummer, but still a really cool movie. Colman Domingo, one of the best performances of the year. Definitely check that one out if you haven't already. The Seed of a Sacred Fig is another really, really compelling watch. So this was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film, and it tells a story of a family and kind of the rift between the the parents who want their children to behave a certain way and the children who want to be able to have more freedoms and not have to do that kind of thing. It's a movie that takes place in Iran and has a lot of a lot of things to say about the government and the way that women are expected to behave in that country. And I believe that it's even gotten a lot of filmmakers in trouble because of that thing. Like they couldn't just be open about, oh, this is what we're making the movie about, when they were making that movie because of laws they have in Iran. So yeah, very, very fascinating movie. A bit long for sure, but also not a movie I would want to cut any scene from. Might be better though, now that it's out of theaters, to watch it at home, and you could maybe, I don't know, if you're someone who likes to every now and then watch half of a movie and then watch the other half the next day, might be the one there. Top 10 now. We have, these are movies that I'm just like, these were really good movies. I'm really happy these all got some love. The Girl with the Needle, which was nominated for Best Foreign Film. Some really good foreign language films as well. I really thought this was fascinating. A really dark story, and depending on how much you like dark stories, you might not love this one as much if you don't like that kind of thing. But it definitely goes really dark places, but it's just so impressively made. I mean, some of the sequences that they're pulling off in this film were really well done, and I was totally captivated throughout. So yeah, that one, The Girl with a Needle, trust me, you don't know why it's called that until you get to that point. I don't even know how I'll go about describing it. Just if you like dark stories, watch that one. If you don't watch it. Like, that's pretty much the best review I can give you. Flow, a very fun movie that I do have a review on this channel for. We're an animated film where all the animals act like animals, which is cool. But they still have a little bit of humanistic qualities to them to allow the movie to work. And really interesting animation. So yeah, that one's definitely worth checking out. It's something like, I don't know, what is it, like an hour 20 or something like that? Like, that's worth it. Anora, it's a great movie. It could win Best Picture as well, and I wouldn't be mad at all if it did. In fact, I'd be pretty thrilled, because it's really cool. It did go on a little bit long for me, as I've heard other people have also given that complaint about, but ultimately it's very funny and very fun and has something to say. Really like the ending. At some point I might make like a video on my thoughts on the ending, but we'll see. For now, just giving my thoughts here. Number 7 was a documentary short called I Am Ready, Warden. It is on Paramount Plus now, and so this is a short film that some people just outright do not like. Some people like me really enjoyed, and I kind of get both perspectives. Essentially, the story follows a man who is on death row and is a week away from being executed, and it follows the son of the man who was murdered by the first man we're following. So it's essentially telling both sides of the story when it comes to the death penalty, of the people that get killed with the death penalty, but also the people that were the family of the victims, and how it can be a sense of justice. And while some people have said that it kind of felt emotionally manipulative, I actually felt the complete opposite. I didn't think that the thumb was on the scale, whatever, at all. I thought they were just telling the story. I'll give a quick spoiler warning. I don't think this would hurt your enjoyment of the movie if you want, but I'll still give the spoiler warning anyway. You can pause and then skip ahead to the next section if you want to. This will be the last thing I say about this movie. But there was a very interesting, so spoilers starting now, there was a very interesting moment here when the man was ultimately, I don't know the correct term, but executed by the state. The son that we were following hears about this, and this is the son of the man who was initially murdered and was the victim's son, not the son of the person who was the murderer. And so this man, who's now an adult, he hears about the man getting executed, and he essentially starts sobbing, which is such a unique thing, right? Because obviously he has no love lost for this guy who murdered his father, but still hearing about someone that he knows dying, still had an emotional impact on him in a very fascinating way. So yeah, ultimately a very thought-provoking short film. Again, the fact that we spend so much time just with a murderer, some people are going to say, nope, not into this, don't want to watch it, and I understand that perspective, but I had a different perspective, and so that's why I'm sharing it on my YouTube channel. A couple more movies. All these at this point I have talked about on my best movies list. So if you've seen that, I might be rehashing some stuff. But number 6, A Different Man, one that I'm glad to see got some love Oscar-wise. I wouldn't have hated to see it get more. I think Sebastian Stan could have been nominated for this movie instead of The Apprentice, although almost feels like sometimes when you have two good performances, they pick one and lift that one up. That's kind of what happened with him. But really, really cool movie. This was one that I started, kind of talk about how sometimes I'll watch half the movie and then watch the other half the next day. I started this one kind of late at night, expecting to do that, and I was just so hooked. I just couldn't. Like I stayed up late to watch it and finish it because I thought it was such a unique ride. I will say I don't know if I loved every twist and turn it took, but like I was still just having so much fun, and that first hour and a half is like perfect. So yeah, that one was great. Memoir of a Snail, another very dark story, although it does have moments of optimism throughout, and is, I would almost say, a sweet movie, despite how dark it gets in ways. So, yeah, that one, again, that's an animated short. I'd love to see that win. I don't think it's going to, because it's just kind of too obscure, but that one I really, really enjoyed as well. And then finally, my top four, which I have videos out on all of these movies, so if you want to hear deeper thoughts, then definitely you can check that out. But first, Nickel Boys, which was a really cool first-person experience that I always like when movies try new things, and this one certainly worked for me. I keep comparing it to like a Terrence Malick movie, but also just a really important story that should be told on top of it. So would have loved to see that get a little bit more love here at the Oscars, but glad it got the Best Picture nomination. A Real Pain, a movie that I was in pain when I found out it did not do too well at the Oscars, did not get the nomination. Not that that really matters too much, but just usually a fun way to talk about movies. But I really enjoyed A Real Pain. I thought it was so much fun. I really liked the dynamic with Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg. I thought this was going to be my favorite movie of the year after I watched it, but there were two movies I liked more. Nosferatu, which I feel like 4 minutes in, I'm like, oh, this is going to be my favorite movie of the year. Like, this is amazing. I just had an absolute blast watching Nosferatu. It was one of two movies that I gave a 10 out of 10 to this year. But number one is The Brutalist, which, again, you've heard me talk about already if you subscribe to this channel. I just thought that this Brutalist was so well done. Even though it has a long runtime and it has a slower pace, I was on the edge of my seat throughout, which, again, the pacing's going to turn some people off. I get it, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. Thank you if you made it to the end of this video. I do appreciate it. I like making these types of movies and want to make some more, and now that it's the football off season, I will have time to make some more. So I'll try and get some more of these movies, get more movie channel videos out. Maybe I can, I'll stop doing just these sort of lists and start doing some other stuff, hopefully at some point. There should be, Mickey 17's coming out before too long. I'll have a review of that when it drops, and maybe even a Bong Joon-ho tier list. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.